Hello. All right, we got about 10-second delay. I will get this link and then share it, and then I'll close down YouTube. There we go. Muted that. All right, I'm live. I'm going to do a project update. Don't worry if you're watching this after the fact. It's going to be a short one, so there's not going to be a bunch of lead time. We need waiting for people to jump in or anything like that. We'll put a link up for people to be able to jump on if there are other YouTube streamers. But don't plan on going too long tonight. Hey, it's Mike, cousin Michael from Landon's Custom Classics. Just jumped in there. Did warn him I was planning on doing a live stream tonight, and I'm a little late. My back's been bugging me all day. As you can see, I'm resting in a lawn chair instead of standing like I usually do in my live streams. I think my last live stream I reassembled one of those little air-cooled go-kart motors. But in this live stream, I'm going to kind of give a little bit of a project update. The old mill truck here, as you can see. Oh, by the way, that was done over a year ago with a surface conditioning tool. And surface conditioning tools are made to remove paint and or rust to get the surface ready to paint or condition it to be ready for paint and primer. And that was done a long, long time ago. Barely turning orange with surface rust. I haven't hit it with Scotch-Brite or sandpaper or anything. It was just done. My AI camera's not AIing right now because I can't find the remote to it, but I did get it up and running for this live stream. And it's much higher resolution than the camera on the computer. Just outside of frame here. I've also used this door to dial in my welder that's right over here for sheet metal, so I could do some other welding on the truck. And I figured since that was already surface conditioned, it was a good spot to do some spot welding, and that's what I did there. So this door, I have another replacement just off camera over here too. Whole door, it'll get painted to match the truck because there's not enough left of this door for me to make it worth saving. Square body doors are everywhere in junkyards and such. Driver's door is a different story. For some reason, there's less driver's side doors. They tend to just take a pounding and a beating, and or they get rusted out. I have another door. I've done some welding on it. My welding is the problem with that door, and so I'm thinking I might just try to salvage the door that came with the truck because it does have the VIN tag on the inside of the column there on the door. So I might just do some sheet metal work to that door because it just needs the lower strip as well as the inner skin. I've watched enough videos on that topic now. I think I could pull that off this time. So anyway, to the project update itself, because like I said, I'm going to try to make it a short one tonight. Landon, I might have you pull towards the end there. Might have you pull the link to jump over to some of our influencers. That's helped me grow my channel significantly. Just trying to get the view time up now. But back up to the project update. Yes, there's a little bit of a mess behind me. I thought I got it out of frame, but I didn't check before starting the camera. That is actually from, I was going to say project update, but we've also had some other issues around here. And I know Landon can, or my cousin Mike from Landon's Custom Classics can relate to this. It's been extremely cold. I know I think about 8 hours southeast of him. But we've had freezing weather to not get above freezing for more than maybe a few hours for almost 3 weeks solid, which is an extremely long spell for where I'm at. Because the year before and the year before that, we had maybe a week and a half, and it would, come out of freezing during the heat of the day. Up until 2 days ago, that did not happen. My sewer line eventually did freeze. I wound up with about 26 feet of solid ice in a 3-inch diameter PVC pipe. If you're familiar with the video where I made a coupler for that. So I had about 26 feet of PVC pipe that was frozen solid from one end to the other. And so said tarp was used. I put the pipe inside here in the shop with the tarp over it and a heater and a heat gun underneath there. And then also used a propane torch to melt the ice as fast as I could from the inside of the pipe. And eventually used a crowbar to just jam it through the pipe. And when the crowbar could no longer reach, I actually used a 2x2 piece of wood and got the rest of the stuff out of the pipe. So if you see any round ice cubes outside the shop, don't play with them. So that's what the tarp's there for. Yes, it's kind of, I'm not going to really use that tarp for much else. It's been dragged across the wet floor, and the wet floor was wet for reasons. So finally to the project update. This runs, it does drive. We have some of the interior in. These seats came out, the buckets or captain seats came out of a Suburban. I have the console sitting between them. It's just sitting there. It needs bolted down. I still want to try to put the Suburban rear seats in because the back of the cab there is about the same profile as where the back seat would bolt in on a Suburban. So I'm going to try to make that fit as well, even though I do not need a 60-40 split seat. The rear seats, actually, upholstery is in really good shape. Front seats are fair. The base of the driver's seat is and so I've actually swapped the driver's and passenger seat because they have armrests on both sides. And so unless you're really keen on how the seat latch mechanism works on these Suburbans, you really wouldn't notice. So just kind of swap the seats. Looking for some cheap seat covers like I did on the Mexican seat blanket, Mexican blanket seat covers on the bench seat. I want to try to make it something similar for now, if I can. Eventually, I do plan to have them reupholstered, either by ordering just a fabric kit or taking them to an upholstery shop and getting the full shammy whammy. I've looked online to some of the other upholstery kits or upholstery, actually, what to say, seats that are available that are not upholstery kits. Seats that are available for this. There's one company out there, they charge $1,300 to $1,500 just for their custom dash pad that matches their version of the seats. What they're actually taking is Yukon or Denali seats and reupholstering them and repurposing them to these trucks. And their prices are astronomical, starting between $3,000 to $5,000 for seating. That's was not my goal. I'm not trying to do luxury seating. This thing still has enough issues with window gasket leaks and door gasket leaks, and I'm in Kansas, so it blows dust the majority of the summertime. Ask me how I know. I scooped about an inch of dirt out of each floorboard when I brought this truck into the garage. So back to what I was saying, it does run and drive. Our problem is the gauge cluster. The square body gauge cluster, they're not known for being fantastic in the first place. This is, again, pretty dusty because it was in the truck when I brought it in here. Fuel gauge, if you've ever driven a square body Chevy or anything in that era, you hit us when you come to a stop, you watch your fuel gauge rock and roll. You turn a corner, you watch your fuel gauge rock and roll. You do pretty much anything, it looks like a windshield wiper. Water temp gauge worked okay. Oil pressure gauge worked okay. Voltage gauge worked okay. We got shaft. If I'd have kept the Muncie 4-speed, which was on its last leg as it is, had the worst gear ratios available known to man, unless you're driving a big block. And well, mine came with a small block, and so the gaps between gears was ridiculous. Especially with towing a camper, I could not even make it to top gear. is a 4-speed with a granny low, so you're really supposed to take off in first, or what would be in the shifter location second, and then so that would be 1, and then where third would be 2, and then straight back would be 3. I could never make it to third gear when I was towing, so that was ridiculous. This is what came out of the truck. I could still find ways to work. You put the sensors in the right locations. I could put an extra oil pressure sensor, so this would get oil pressure, and then still the computer would get oil pressure. Same with water temperature gauge, and the voltage is voltage. That worked. I could wire in it's still wired up for the fuel sending unit. Now there is, I think, a resistor or something I could add. Yes, they all have horrible fuel gauges. I could add, I think there's some sort of resistor or something that I could add to make, maybe it's a capacitor, but make the fuel gauge not move as much. Now in this truck, I have put a 87 model fuel tank in there. And that was the first year that they put fuel injection in these body styles, and the last year of production for this body style, with the exception of the 1 tons and the Suburbans. They continued those all the way up until, I believe, 2001 or 2003 for the Suburbans. Maybe a little less time on the 1 tons. But, yeah. So the other option, this came out of a donor truck that was a 2001. You can see it's a significantly different shape. Gauge cluster. If you've watched videos, and get the tach and speedometer working. None of these other gauges work. Oh, volt gauge does work. So the rest of the gauges, oil pressure, water temp, and fuel gauge, of course, isn't wired up at all, and trans temp did not work. That might take some additional wiring, but the bigger problem with this is it physically does not fit inside the dash between the steering column and the dash pad. You can see there's significant height difference. I could modify the dash, but that would require cutting some of the steel out of the dash and then putting maybe the same dash pad from this donor vehicle in there. And that would be a lot of grafting and a lot of maybes and what have you. So I'm trying to find another more elegant solution. I know there's Dakota Digital out there. Dakota Digital is going to be an expensive option. There's another kind of a clone of them. They do some digital gauges that would actually drop right into this housing. Would take the entire everything off the back here, and it would fit in there. That is an option. The more I look at some of the other stuff, the more that option becomes maybe a possible. What I'm really looking at, I was looking at some digital dashes that have just a rectangular screen, kind of like a tablet, but elongated some more. There's the Pi Dash, which is based off of Raspberry Pi or Raspbian, which my son is a little bit familiar with some Raspberry Pi stuff right now. But what I was looking at with those, I don't want to take my time to build one from a parts and kit, because I'd have to learn the whole ins and the outs of the software. And what I'm also seeing is I would either need to wire up, get extra sensors to the entire everything, and or they do. That's what I'm looking at. Some of the other brands. There's an Australian company. I've chatted with them a little bit via email, and they quickly corrected me. I thought I could just plug it in, because there are some CAN bus systems that will directly plug into their digital dash. They quickly corrected me and said, no, I would need a CAN bus input-output board or circuit that I would have to wire everything from the truck to that, and then that would communicate with the digital dash. Then there's another company, I believe their name is One Dash. Their website's pretty clear. No matter what you use, you're going to have to use their, again, CAN bus IO board that would talk to their dash. And again, theirs is also Raspberry Pi or some sort of Pi-based board. Of course, they're using their own touchscreen. They all have where you can change the gauges in different gauges, visual, kind of like using different screens for Windows or Linux or themes. So you could change those screens or whatever and move the gauges around where you want them within their software. That's an option. They haven't responded yet, but it sounds like maybe their board will actually talk to both the tachometer or respond to the tachometer and maybe the vehicle speed, because that is what got this up and running. Is there's literally, say, pin 6 is vehicle speed, pin 8 might be engine speed, which is tachometer, and so those wires coming from the ECU go into these wires and make those gauges function. So it's, to me, it's would be ridiculous to invest money into a digital dash, and then they're still telling me, the one company, the Australian company, is telling me I would still have to buy the upgraded unit that will take a GPS module, and then I would still have to buy the GPS module and antenna to plug into their unit, so I'd get vehicle speed, which coming out of a garage or something like that, I would have no vehicle speed until I got outside and it picked up satellites. Again, this thing has vehicle speed outputs, may not be accurate to this vehicle's gearing and tire size, but it has an output. It would give me an immediate signal for vehicle speed. So again, that's kind of why I'm trying to do this. So I have the speedometer and working gauges. So there's two systems. One is the Australian company. One is one gauge. Autometer does make an option. Their gauge, their digital dash is starting at $1,300, and again, you still have to have a connector board. Would literally just tell them I have a LS swap because I'm using the same ECU as an LS. Would have to tell them LS swap me. They'd tell me what board to buy and plug into theirs, and that starts at $1,300, and then their input output board's probably about $300 more. It's really at $1,600 for the Autometer gauge set. That brings me back to the one gauge set that makes this digital. I did not study theirs enough. They probably need the same thing, some sort of I/O board. There was another company in the United States that I also came across early on in my search, and they didn't seem like their stuff was quite as refined. I did see some mention of an I/O board, and it sounds like they're working hard on their I/O boards, and that their I/O board is kind of their weakest point of their development. But they did seem to have one that was LS compatible. So might be going back to shop their website and read up on their website again. I'm at the point where I'm actually contacting these companies and verifying, because I'm getting down to, once I actually have the money in my bank account, it's time to order one of these, because I want to start driving this more regularly. But I want to have some gauges at work, water temp, oil pressure. I've done a lot of work to this thing to get this up and running, and I want to have, I would love for it to have a idiot light, because the ECU, I even left the oil level gauge plugged in to the ECU. So the ECU would actually be able to know when the oil quantity in the oil pan gets below a certain amount. It would be able to trip a trouble code. Now, if I have the right dash and gauge cluster that can talk to that, the ECU could talk to it, we'd be able to get a code that says, hey, oil level, So then same with the TCU and the ECU talk to each other, because this is an Allison transmission. It's the industrial version. It actually has a TCU made by Allison that has about 4 wires that talk between the Allison TCU and the engine control module. And I can tell when it gets to the top of each gear, it actually the truck goes into torque management mode. So, where are we at in the chat? I don't see anybody more than cousin Mike over here. I do see I have 4 people on board. So, don't be a lurker. Say hi. Stop by. Make some comments. Give some thumbs ups. There's 4 of y'all in here. I should get 4 thumbs ups, right? So anyway, that is a bulk of the project update. I've taken 20 minutes to say that much. I know it's been about 2 weeks since I've been on here. Dakota Digital probably does make one for the LS, and the more frustrating some of this gets, the more I think maybe I should just break down and spend a little bit of money and just get it done. Was that Romeo Serrata? Am I saying that? Serrata? Romeo Serrata. So yeah, thumbs up, my friend. But here's another option I have thought of, is maybe see if I can find an odometer speedometer that will just take vehicle speed and plug that joker right in there where this would be. Because there's enough room in there. I might be able to just take that gauge, well, the speedometer itself is mechanical, and put an actual electronic gauge in there and see if I can get that working. But that's not, I mean, it's an option. It's not the most elegant option. But that might get me on the road faster. Oh, okay. So that was a connection from the AJAC Tandem Live yesterday. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming aboard, and thanks for the subscription. Apparently, you subscribed, or you wouldn't be jumping over here right now. Yeah, I know we don't have a lot of people on here. Well, we jumped up to 5, which it's getting pretty far up there, considering my lives usually don't have a lot of people anyway. I'm surprised old Mater's Workshop hadn't stopped by. He always tends to jump in when I have a live, but he might be busy with his motorcycle live streams. It is Tuesday. His sometimes run a little long as well. Like I said, I didn't plan on talking for long. That is a majority of my updates. I've been fighting cold weather. I just barely got running water in the camper again Sunday night. By Monday morning, it froze up again. Monday evening, I realized I forgot to plug in all my heated hoses and stuff. That was a good reason for it to freeze up. It barely froze, and then yesterday it got up warm enough that it melted again. And then today it got up warm enough that I was able to wash my work truck for the first time since I've had it. Had this truck for, let's say, 3-4 weeks now. Because the car washes are closed when it's freezing. So, another thing I was working on last night when cousin Mike was on, I was actually wiring up the relays. So the main relay I wanted to wire up right away, and I'm just now getting around to it. I've got 4 relays wired up. 3 of them are pre-wired because I stole them out of an existing wire harness. May have been the wiring harness. Kind of took it all out of the harness because it was a rat's nest. In fact, I was going to show some pictures tonight, but I downloaded them from another computer. I came across them today. Early on, when I finally got the engine here, I already had the harness here, and I'd already stripped a lot of the electrical tape off of the harness. Well, first thing I did when I got the engine and transmission here is I started plugging all those connectors in on the engine, and I was pulling all these wires back, tracing the wire from, say, if it was a ignition wire going to the coil packs, I'll trace that wire all the way to the ECU itself, and try to trace those wires out and get all the extra wires out of there that I didn't need. Figured out, like I said, I kept all the engine sensors, but there was a lot of other wiring that went to random places on the, we'll say, UPS truck or the vehicle it was in. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and I really kicked myself for that. I really wish I'd have taken and ordered one of those Amazon or eBay harnesses, and then just pulled the wires from the transmission, figure out which wires go from the transmission to the TCU, and which ones go from the TCU to the ECU. Depin those wires, pull them out of this harness, put them in the eBay harness, and I'd have had that harness up and running in a week. I spent probably 2 months working on that harness. So kicked myself out. Lesson learned. If I was going to do another, when I do an engine swap, an LS swap, or an 8-1 swap, that will be what I do is order the simplest harness closest to what I need and get that thing in the mail and plug and play, baby. You know, even if a couple of those connectors on the ends might have been the wrong connector, I could have stolen from this harness and been done way, way faster. That being said, there's a donor truck out there. The engine and transmission are spoken for. They're not spoken for by me. But when it comes time to wire those up, that's exactly what I'm going to do for that guy. We're going to just pull. His doesn't have the TCU. His is actually the ECU from the engine. Also controls the shifting on that his Allison, because it's a that was a Chevy 2500 HD, and mine came out of an industrial truck. So this one came with the industrial TCU, and the other one, the P59 computer, that LS computer, is smart enough to ship a transmission. So his will be a little bit as far as hey, Busted Radio, thanks for showing up, brother. Man, where was that? It will be a little bit different to find a tune for, but I know they're out there. Mine's actually harder to find a tune for, but they're probably out there. The good news is I didn't have to put a tune on mine yet, because it didn't have VATs in there, because UPS trucks don't have body control modules or stereos. So the way they set theirs up, there was never a VATs in it. So all that wiring and ECU just plugged in here, and I kept the wiring harness together, and it does that. It does run. Well, it looks like my mom even showed up. We got Busted Radio. That's Chris. We got cousin Mike. We got my wife. I think my son's even watching. We got some other people have jumped on there. We got up to 8. We're doing pretty good. Oh, Mio Ryder 27. She is awesome. That's my influencer there. She really has grown the channel a lot. Got me around 125 subscribers in one day, which that just rocks. Yes, Landon, cousin Mike over there. Say hi to her for us. And so we're just chatting along, giving a project update, about the dash options. It's not a pretty truck, but it's mechanically sound. Is the best way to word it. Got did all the brakes on it way before. I've done wheel bearings front and rear. Wheel bearing seals in the rear, because those leaking like crazy. 8-1 swap, fuel injection. It's doing everything that it's supposed to be doing, with the exception of the gauge cluster stuff. That bling don't mean a thing. Thanks, Scott Keller. It will be prettier later, but it's still going to be that color approximately. I found school bus yellow is the closest match to what I could find to it, and I bought that from hardware store paint. So I'm never going to really cut and buff it or anything. So I got paint it. Oh, maybe. Nope. Did it come back? It came back. All right, I was about to swap to the other camera. Hey, Mohawk 62. How you doing, brother? I hadn't seen you in forever. Well, it's my own fault. I haven't been doing live streams, and I guess I haven't jumped on any of yours. So, but yeah, we got Chris from Busted Radio. So we're doing pretty good here. We got Scott and Neil Ryder. We got a handful of people here. Just doing a revving your bike for us. That's awesome. But I was just giving an update, looking at digital dash options, and or just put a electronic speedometer in the original cluster. That might. It's not like I said. It's not a elegant option. I do want the capability of being able to get some of the dummy codes working. You know, because I did leave all the sensors that like NOx sensors and oil level sensors intact. So. Only 32 minutes or so in here. So anybody want to jump in, I'll send a link in there if y'all want. In fact, my rattle can school bus yellow is actually from Tractor Supply. Wherever I was at the time when I bought the paint, I did buy a quart or so of. I say a quart. I may have bought the full gallon from a tractor store. It was a different chain. I say tractor store, some sort of farm and ranch or fleet supply, and they sold me a gallon of school bus yellow for like 50, 60 bucks. So just coming around to once the gauge cluster's done, I've got some sheet metal to do on the driver's side floor, finish the rocker on the driver's side. Another wind's blowing it from the heater, I guess. Stuff's moving. So yeah, and then it's doors. Driver's side fender's looking good. The passenger side fender was not bad until I dropped the truck. Literally dropped the truck off of a jack stand. Was jacking it up, and I was using a screw jack, which I should have probably been using a hydraulic jack. And it's one of those scissor jacks. You know, you put the 3/4 inch drive socket to it and spin it and try to raise the truck up. Well, I did that with an impact, and that impact imposed a little bit of rotation to the jack itself. The jack tipped over, and when it did, it shattered one of my jack stands. Did not have front wheels on it at the time because I was actually jacking it up to put the front wheels on, and one of the wheels was sitting in the wheel well and put a nice crease to the fender here. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do about that yet. I think I have a piece from another fender that I might just graft into there. We'll see what happens. Oh, you had an 86 4-door 8-foot bed. Called it the Green Machine. Pontiac 389. Big block Muncie. 4-speed with a dual. Man, that was a beast. I bet it got nothing for fuel mileage, just like this monster. Towing my camper, this thing gets about 3.5 miles to the gallon. We'll see what it does with the big block. Because most of the people who have that modern big block in a modern truck get about 9 to 12 miles to the gallon, depending on what type of fifth wheel camper they're towing. So I'm hoping to get 9. 9 would be an improvement from 3. You know, you go from a small block to a big block and more than double your fuel mileage. I'll take it. So, and then I'm sure putting around town it won't be so bad. All right. You had a 68 Thunder. You know what? We'll start. Do that. 68 Thunderbird will be John Deere green with satin black. How don't you do the John Deere green with the safety yellow, which is actually John Deere yellow? It just depends on what store you're buying it at. They call it safety yellow. I actually have a couple cans of that because I bought it by mistake thinking it was the right color for this truck. Let's see. Yep, I talked about that one already. Let's jump over here to this one. Everybody can see. Took a gallon to start. Had a Rat Pack car. Ooh, oh, took the 389 took a gallon of gas to start it up. Yeah, this one, if you rev it up to the stoplight, you watch the gauge just whoop. And it didn't take long. And then that, and it consumed about 1.5 quarts of oil for every tank of gas. That's 20 gallons of gas and 1.5 quarts of oil. It was using, I don't know, like an extra $3 or $4, $5 worth of oil for a tank of gas. It was pretty rough. What we got on here? Not feeling the yellow? Well, you could go with your green and black, but I just, I got some yellow for you if you wanted it. So how's everybody doing tonight? How's the weather where you're at? Michael, I'm still waiting for the bid to come through. My boss actually forgot to bid that particular project today, so it'll be tomorrow before they put the bid in, and then it's up to the customer to approve that bid before I can come out there. But kind of hoping to see you soon. Mandy's digging the black and yellow. I was kind of leaning for a gray interior in this truck. I hate to change the color of the plastic parts. The seats aren't so bad because it's fabric. But then Mandy was like, why don't you do black and yellow interior? Well, I can get, an upholstery kit in black. I can spray all the plastic in black, I guess. Was also thinking maybe the original colors in this truck, I did look it up, was a kind of a tan. The wife has spoken. Well, another thing about this is this stencil on this door is black, and the stencil on the other door is white. Painted it Ford Jewel Green. Got about 2 in that town and 2.5 out my way. Can empty 2.5 gallons or 2 25-gallon tanks a day. But you're talking 85 when gas was 89 cents a gallon. Yeah. I remember my dad showing me. It was a dually version of these back in the late 80s. It may have been a 2-door, but it was a car hauler where it had the rack, and it may have had the gooseneck trailer car hauler. He said, son, that truck gets the same gas mileage whether it's anything on that trailer or not. He says, so that guy has to be hauling something to make money. What's she say? Well, there's a lot to do before I get to the dashboard itself. That's another one that's part of this project. All right, Busted Radio's hopping out. Thanks for coming, Busted Radio. We'll see you next time, Chris. And Mohawk62 says later to him too. The paints last. I could paint it primer gray for a while and not care. Same with the interior. The interior is going to be last. But I do want it to be, well, like I said, it's pretty mechanically sound. I could probably use some new U-joints. I did do, I'm getting a 6-inch straight pipe. This one has 2.5 to 3. So coming off the manifolds, because I did do Corvette cast manifolds to, I didn't want the full-on header effect, and I was already fighting clearances as it was. They do make a big block header that will fit this frame, but this is a tall deck block, which might have affected that as well. I will finish the dash. All right, what I love to do with the dash pad, first of all, the dash pad is terrible. It was tan or brown, like I was saying before. Tried to get to the colors. That was the original interior colors of this truck, was tan and brown, or just tan on tan. And of course, everything has changed color over the years. But the dash pad, I'm going to fill it in with body filler. I'm going to pop a mold off of it, and then I'm going to do some other stuff to it. And what I want to do is add a double DIN stereo to the dash pad, so it's up high like a modern vehicle's touchscreen stereo. But I'm going to have the square body dash pad has kind of a fairly straight up, you angle to it. I'm going to try to mirror that and shrink it down to where a double DIN would fit in it and make that onto my dash. And I'll probably pop another mold from that. So if any of the other square body guys want one, I'll be able to make one for them. Wraps the dash pad with vinyl shower curtain. That sounds like a neat finish. Even though mine's probably going to be fiberglass, I could probably just paint it. But I was thinking about churching it up a little with some sort of fabric, and that sounds like a shower curtain probably stretches pretty good. Am I correct? Averaged a ticket a week. Man, that must have been a loud truck. All right. So we've been on for about 41 minutes. I did say I was going to keep it pretty short today, and well, I've been talking, so it looks like you guys are carrying the conversation with me. We've got enough people in the chat. Give me something to talk about. This one goes from the manifolds. Had to duck around, keep it inside the frame rails. I actually kept it above the bottom of the frame, so my exhaust never dips below the bottom of the frame. I don't think anywhere. Well, in the back, when the frame actually goes up towards the rear leaf springs, the exhaust just keeps going straight. But by then, we've got fuel tanks and drive shafts dropping below that point, so my mufflers are never going to be the low point. I like that game plan. I just plan on doing some extra shape to my dash pad before it's all said and done. So maybe I'll do that as a finish for it when I'm done. And so it goes from 2.5 right past the transmission cross member. It goes to 3 with the flex coupler right after. I think it goes to 3 before the flex coupler. Doesn't matter. And then after that, it goes to a muffler just before the rear axle. That's where it stops at right now. I was planning on doing a turn down or go over the rear axle with the hump. But that's what it's got. It's all stainless from the manifold. After the manifold, everything's stainless. So it took me a little bit of practice and some skill learning and some extra different welding gas, of course, different welding wire. Initially TIG welded some of it, did not go so well. Swapped over to MIG and got the right gas for it. And MIG welding stainless doesn't turn out too bad. Turns out better than my TIG welding. Keep the push bumper, rear tailgate filler, and then so what happened? The average is taking a week. Yeah, this does not have a push bumper in the front. I have looked at potential push bumpers off of tow trucks and stuff. There's some other farm truck on here that might have a push bumper. I could probably buy or just fabricate one. The rear end is actually a push bumper, just because the nature of it's where it's welded to the bed. The bed starting here, everything is welded all the way back. Has an old school 6-inch or 7-inch angle iron. I don't know where on earth it came from. It's at least 3/8 of an inch thick, probably a 1/2 inch thick angle iron, and it's big enough to be a step. I use that to get into the bed of the truck when I need to get up there, and it has a 2-inch, little teeny weeny, like 1 7/8 or 2-inch trailer ball back there, if it's still back there. Like I said, I primarily use that as a step to get into the bed. I would actually like to make recessed steps into the rear bumper, just make it easier to get up, maybe on the side. Thought about even bobbing the corners, like a slightly more modern gooseneck or fifth wheel flatbed. That flatbed is actually pretty long, and I have reason to suspect that this bed was not originally on this truck. This truck was always registered from the original owner was a railroad, hence the reason it's some sort of safety yellow. I think it was BNSF, but it doesn't matter. It's been decades. Uh, it was a railroad truck, and it was bought as a cab and chassis. And then this bed, I don't know if they put that bed on there or if the second owner put this bed on there. Mr. Kasich himself from Milligan, Nebraska. But somewhere along the way, that bed is actually, they extended the frame, welded the extension to the frame and to the bed. And then at the front, it actually has 2x6s with all thread. So coming from the bed down is all thread, clamping it to the frame with 2x6s in the middle. But the rest of the back is welded to the frame of the truck. And then, of course, when I put my fifth wheel hitch on there, all I did was bolt the fifth wheel hitch to the bed of the truck. It was the simplest install of a fifth wheel hitch I think I've ever done. I measured 2 or 3 times, drilled my holes, dropped the bolts through, jumped under there, spun the nuts on, put a wrench on the top, hit it with an impact, and it was done. Just sold the body a few months ago. Well, I hope it was in better shape than this one, and if not, I hope they got a good deal on. This, I've kind of played with the idea of maybe putting a regular truck bed on it, or even get a dually axle and put a dually bed on it. I know the axles are different for the dualies. This is a 14-bolt rear end either way, but the setup for the dualies is quite different. I do have access to a dually rear axle, but the dually bed is already spoken for. I also have, and I'm more likely to use, the axle from the donor truck, the 2001 that this came from. That is actually, my intention is to take that 14 bolt. It's maybe an inch or two, less than 2 inches, I think, difference in width, track width overall, but it is a disc brake rear end. I do have the master cylinder from that disc brake rear end. So I can just swap the disc brake rear end, swap the master cylinder, bleed the brakes, and be back on the road probably in one weekend. The one key factor there is I would need to move the spring perches on that axle to match the width of my springs. I've never seen salt. Man, that would have been, yeah, this Nebraska truck, I think at one time in its life it was used to push the snowplows that salt the roads, because the rocker panels, well, to put it nicely, there are none. And the floorboards are, especially the driver's side floorboard, were ugly, just to put it very nicely. I wish I'd have bought quarter pans for the floorboard. It would have saved me a lot of time in fabrication. I did develop some skills there, and part of my floorboard is much thicker sheet metal because it's easier to fabricate and weld. Want to build a dump bed. Backwoods Custom Crap. Hi, nice to see you there, buddy. I don't remember your name, but I remember meeting, I believe, at the No Name Nationals. And if not, I've seen you around on some of the other live streams. You just stopping by to say hi. Well, hi back, man. I'm glad you're here. Stay for 2 or 3 minutes. Don't forget to hit that like button before you head out. Just giving project updates and rambling about this stupid square body crew cab here. I know there's tons of channels out there who've made a living off of square bodies, and for some reason my videos aren't that fun and interesting. But maybe my next videos will be. Kind of contemplating working on the old 83 Toyota truck, the 22R propane turbo truck. That's the fastest way to find my channel, is to type that into YouTube. Still is to this day. And that truck, when it was running, with 35 or 36-inch tires, would try to pull the front tires off the ground with the 4-cylinder motor. That little 4-cylinder should not make that much power or torque, but somehow, I wouldn't say it was torque, but maybe it's dumb luck because the suspension was set up for rock crawling, so it's pretty soft suspension, and the weight transfer is pretty radical once you get it moving. So I've always intended to do a wheelie video with that truck. Maybe one day will. Right now, I've lost the short block due to some freezes. She wants me to work on that one. Well, for one, I already own it, and I just need a new short block. The block is cracked on top of it having really crappy worn out rings, and when I did raise the compression ratio by shaving enough off the cylinder head to raise it from 8.9 compression ratio to 9.9, that just further aggravated the rings on that, and then we lost the short block due to freezes. I still hope the head's in good shape, because I've done a significant amount of port work and valve work to that head. It also has a stage 3 cam in it. Yeah, cheaper to rebuild a 4-cylinder motor by all means. And that could be the No Name Nationals truck. Not that a rock crawler is made for drag racing. It already has gears and lockers, and we just have to put some smaller tires and some slicker tires on it, and probably need a windshield and some other stuff to make it past tech. Don't know if they even allow propane to be on a track or not. And then the fuel hoses, that'd be another challenge, because with propane they prefer rubber hoses. But just chatting with Silver, about 2 hours away from Fort Jackson. Mohawk, you might have to expand on that conversation. Oh, Scott Keller's talking about he has a T100. The T100s, yeah, those are. Was that the predecessor to the Tundras? Because I know the Tacos is what the Helix turned into, a Tacoma, and then I think the T100s became the Tundras eventually. Am I correct? Man, did those have the V6 or the V8? The T100s. I want to say the bigger ones had the V8, but I think the V6 may have been the standard motor. So Backwoods Custom Crap, yeah, we met over at the No Name Nationals. T100's the daddy to the Tundra. That's right. Mandy's got the her Tundra's a Cavalry Blue. She's had Smurfette stickers on it, and as a little custom for Christmas one year, I got her some of those lights that project something onto the ground. And a lot of people have, if it's a Chevy, they have a Chevy logo project on the ground, Ford or whatever. I got her some that had Smurfette project on the ground, and I thought that was pretty darn slick. Of course, the passenger side one never seems to work, but eats through batteries. I think the little sensor that turns it on and off just doesn't work right. Oh, Mohawk 62 son Silver enlisted in the Army, and he left out yesterday. Tim, I wish him all the luck. Listen to the drill sergeants. Keep your mouth shut. Do as you're told. Don't laugh at other people when they do something wrong. Keep that to yourself. You can laugh about it later after basic training's over. Meal Rider's back. Mandy says she loved her little projectors. Somebody stole the stickers, and yeah, don't smile when you're in basic. Just expressionless faces. That probably is what got me through basic. I already knew, I was expecting the full, like the shark attack. I was expecting that to be the whole behavior the whole time. So when shark attack happened, I was already there for a week and a half getting all my stuff from reception battalion. So when they finally did shark attack, I was like, finally, and then those guys were being told they couldn't roll their suitcases. They had to carry them. And, I showed up to basic training with clothes on my back and a toothbrush and shoes. And they basically told me I couldn't use my toothbrush or shoes. I had to go buy all new stuff when I got there. So, yes, Mandy's saying somebody stole the Smurfette stickers off of her truck. But yeah, let's see. Oh, he's saying it came with a 4-banger, a 3.0 boat anchor, and a 2.7. The 3.4 never a V8. Okay, so they were experimenting with all the engines before they got to the V8. I think maybe the last year they threw a V8 in it, and then if I remember right, or the first year the Tundra looked an awful lot like the T100 maybe. Hey, look at there. He says he's going to be in Garden City at the end of February. Reach out to you when you get close. Please, by all means, you can find my email address in the About section of my YouTube channel, and we'll exchange phone numbers. That way, kind of like me and cousin Mike did yesterday. I finally got a hold of him this morning. Ian Stevenson. Oh, we got the Kiwi chat. Told others about at Rob's. I'm going to go hijack jack stands and cinder blocks. This is not me being disloyal. This guy has a serious propeller head and full of hot air. I'll be back. All right. Well, I'm not a propeller head. I just happen to work on helicopters for a while. Oh, okay, met Silver at the No Name Nationals. Was he working on something or just was there? So that I met a lot of people that weekend, and man, I've slept since then. I've tried to videotape as many people as I could and tried to get pictures. Next time I'll try to get pictures. What I want to do is actually develop a cheat sheet book for myself before next year that will have a picture of each person and their hero car from their channel printed out, so I can have that. So when I see them, I can instantly know this is, cousin Mike from Landon's Customs Classic, and here's his whatever his hot rod that he's bringing this year. Because I wish I'd have done that last year, because I didn't recognize half the people there, even though I'd been on their channels and watched their channels and listened to their live streams and maybe not listened to and watched enough of them to know what they were, who they were. And then some of them I'd subscribed along the way, just by pure habit of they'd subscribe to me. And there's not enough hours in a day to watch everybody's everything. But I try. Miss Beatty's training days. First cadence they taught us was stick me in the barber chair and then spin me around. I had no hair. That's so true when you get to basic. But I was expecting that, there was a lot I had already expected. I'd already had a brother go through it. I had a cousin before that had gone through it. I watched movies about it, and boy, those movies lied. But and things are getting different. They're not allowed to do near as much as they used to. Okay, never bored. Yeah, we've already changed numbers. Good deal. We got Lori's World showed up. Is that the coin collector or the knitting? But busted jack stands. I have actually broke jack stands in this shop. And I was watching, oh goodness, I want to say it was Paul Barn the other day, taking the 4-wheel drive parts out of one of the vans and trying to put it under another van, and things got sketchy there for a while. He almost won the jack stands award because the van tipped and almost fell off the jack stands. And he had jack stands on top of boards that were on top of cinder blocks. So he had the full gamut. He had the cinder blocks, jack stands, and everything out there, and he almost lost that van. And eventually, when he was done, he did tow it out of the truck with a square body pickup truck. So good video. I got to see that video. I think I got all the way to the end of it. If not, I'll try to next time. But I don't think the video ended where he'd finished the project. He was just tearing it down, getting all the parts off of it. Yeah, everybody's saying hi to each other. Oh, what the? The jack stand I broke was not from Harbor Freight. I think it was older, but I think it was one of the automotive stores, Silver brand, whatever it was. It did shatter. Of course, I did drop a truck on it. like I said earlier in the video, was trying to jack the truck up to put the wheels and tires on, and jack tipped over, and don't think the jack stand was originally where it was anyway, and when it dropped down, it hit it hard enough it shattered it. Nice surgery scar from a friend not properly placing a jack stand. I mean, they're used as a safety device, but when used improperly, the way the vehicle always wins. So, gotta go. Well, nice for you to jump in, Neverboard S10. Hope to see you next year's, and see you a bunch of times between then and now. But they have announced, I believe it's around the same weekend in September for the No Name Nationals this year. We'll see you later, Neverboard. Alright, recruiter, last name was Sergeant, Drill Sergeant. Well said, Private Sergeant. That must have been fun. We had a private major, and his dad was actually a sergeant major. We had a lot of unique names in my basic training. We had a private hand, a private foot, a private elbow. We had a knee. We had a, yeah, I said hand, right? Private elbow actually dislocated his elbow. That was a fun one. It was a hand-to-hand combat. Go figure. We had a bunch of a facey, private facey, as in face. And then we had the most famous one, Phenis, Phenis, Private Phenis, and you know he got picked on. Oh, we got the pink hand waving. I'm Yo Rider. That's only number 2 for the whole evening, and I've been on for an hour, so I think I nursed that last one. It got hot on me. But yeah, we've been on for a full hour. We've got about 7 people. I bet you we've averaged about 5 through the entire live stream. I've given an update on the truck. I've given a couple people giving me some feedback on some of their square body crew cabs and other project vehicles. We've gotten my wife's vote on the interior colors. My mom's chimed in about finishing the dash, which I'm trying to pick out a workable gauge cluster that will suit my needs. We had the old chrome West Coast mirrors, huh? What type of those? Are they something like this or bigger? I do have something that attaches to the door at 4 points, and I have 2 of them. I also have some that actually, they're from a Ford, but they were a Ford kind of like this, where if you've seen this Chevy C60s, where they take the same square body cab and put it up on a 2 or 3 ton chassis. They've got some from a Ford that they attach up there at the top of the door and here and further down the door, and they have big rectangular mirrors. I've got both of those, but somebody did break one of the mirrors, which I can get new glass, but and I think those kind of might be overkill, even though I do plan to tow with this. So let me know. Maybe shoot me a picture of those West Coast mirrors sometime. Dean US rhymes with Dean. Well, anyway, Dean, we'll talk about that later. Michael Langdon. Oh goodness, was that Knight Rider or what other show was that? Vote my butt. It's going to happen, honey. You pay for the upholstery. We'll do it whatever color you want. Charles Turtle or Turtle. Crazy's name was Charles Turtle. Well, like I said, we have Private Phenis, Phenis. Yeah, that guy was kind of a peckerhead anyway, and he did go AWOL during basic training because he lived in Kentucky, about an hour and a half from basic training. They did find him at home, What you buy? Like I said, honey, you buy the upholstery. We'll do it. Highway to Heaven. Oh, Hasselhoff. West Coast Mirror Rectangle. I might have something similar to it already. Pink it is? No, honey. We're not doing pink. Charles Tuttle from Mac. Oh, you guys are getting the conversations going now. Highway to Heaven, Bonanza, Little House on. Oh, okay, that Michael Landon. That was the actor's name. Gotcha. My great grandmother used to watch Little House on the Prairie religiously, uh, and that was back in the and then moved the antennas to get the signal days. And I had the fun pleasure of living right next door to my great grandmother, and across the street was several of my cousins who also were obviously related. So that whole street was Baker Road. The only reason it got a name after my great grandmother Vera Baker was they needed to, when the telephone company wanted to put phones in, they had to have an address so they could send the bill. Girls in pink make men drink. Yes, sir. Gotta go. See y'all. All right. Thanks for coming, Mandy. Thanks for stopping by. I'm not going to read that out loud. But anyway, might not do it justice anyway. Oh, yeah, that ought to get somebody in trouble. What the first sergeant did. We had a drill sergeant Diaz, and he was known as the devil. We called him Diablo Diaz when he wasn't around. He was, if y'all don't know, drill sergeants before they start a circuit will figure out who's going to be the straight guy and who's going to be the bad guy. Sometimes, and so some of the drill sergeants will be the nice guy, so privates will open up to them when they have a family problem or what have you, and then they'll have the other drill sergeants be the bulldog. And Drill Sergeant Diaz was definitely the bulldog. He had the whole persona and face for it. I don't think he could ever play the nice guy. He just didn't have the face for it. Nothing to Tuttle. You guys are all over the puns and stuff now. You guys are doing great. Keeping the chat going because it's hard to talk for an hour by yourself. You're just talking to a camera and reading text messages, basically. So, uh, I used to watch Little House on the Prairie with your mom. Well, that was my great grandmother, but my grandmother probably watched it too, and I think my mom watched a little bit of it. But that you got to take into account. My great grandmother was born in 13, between 1913 and 1919, somewhere in there, and so she literally lived out on the prairie. Uh, she was there in Humble before the Humble oil boom, and she used to actually do laundry for the oil drillers when they were drilling for oil in Humble, Texas, by the way. Currently owned by Texaco, and I think Texaco got bought out by Exxon, and then maybe Exxon got bought out by Enron. But anyway, there's over 100-year lease, and my great uncle, her eldest son, I think, or one of her sons, still rents that property from or leases that property from the oil company. I think they'll eventually just give it to him or let him buy the rights to that land as long as he's not doing oil. They don't care. Yeah, watch the Waltons and the tornado. Hang on, let me read. Graduated boot camp when the Air Force drill sergeant posts for Playboy and got kicked. Was that a female drill sergeant? I'm assuming. uh, Watch the Waltons when the tornado hits. That remember going through basic training, got to walk through a water hole, walk till the boots were dry. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I wish I still knew where my boots were. Uh, I probably still have them or would have had them. They probably got put somewhere they were not as protected from the weather as I originally thought, and may have got a little bit of mold and jungle rot to them. I think I still have some of my jungle boots. They allowed us to wear those up until a good ways into even my last deployment, even though we'd already switched from BDUs to ACUs years before. They were actually in the process of switching to a different uniform. And even at that, we wore DCUs or even we had aviation uniforms. And I think that's where some of the certain boots were still allowed because we're aviation. I do think I remember that. The early 90s, mid 90s, or probably late 90s, early 2000s. Girl Sergeant. Okay, so mom chimed in. So Uncle Raymond is actually the youngest son of Grandma Baker, but he's still kicking. Am I correct? Haven't seen anything about him dying yet. He's probably gonna outlive Willie Nelson, crying out loud. I cannot wear polypros unless it's absolutely subarctic. I probably still have them somewhere. They would definitely need washed before I could wear them to storage. Ding, that's good stuff. Yeah, I'm sure they did sing it. They probably wrote some fun songs about that one. Could probably buy a new Whoopi. Uh, okay. I was telling a story about that. So yeah, my uncle has purchased the land from the oil companies and some of the surrounding lands, probably from people who probably gave up their lease before and was able to get it for probably equally dirt cheap. Will he still pickle? They'll never die. Well, if anything, he's pre-smoked, kind of like some salmon or something. And of course, he sings the song "Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die." Whew. Yeah, I hope they cremate him, and everybody in the town's going to get high from that one. Miss Drill Sergeant from Fort Jackson. I had a drill sergeant who actually graduated from the same high school about 2.5 years ahead of me when I got to AIT. So I'd already gone through basic, and when we got to AIT, she was asking me where I was from, and I told her, and she asked what high school I was, and she's like, "Do not embarrass me." I don't think I did. I did run into her years after she was a drill sergeant in whatever unit she buzzed through, and she thought it was kind of an interesting character. Oh, I can't say I don't have some character. Yes. Wow. Uncle Monkey's still around. He can grill you from both ends. The drill sergeants, I'm assuming. Ah, goodness gracious, guys. Got a good conversation going with everybody. So, um, yeah, you can see there's some sheet metal left to do, some painting left to do, but right now the last real thing I need to do before I can really start driving is get some sort of dash collected together and working. Like I said, I could plug this in right now and have speedometer and tachometer. Pretty much nothing else. But and I could take it around town that way. But I'm not going to try to go on a long road trip without having some sort of dash with some warning lights and stuff. So can know what the oil pressure and water temperatures and stuff are looking like. Because I'm still using the small block radiator, even though it was a brand new radiator that I put on when I got the truck, but it is not made for a big block. Never had any problems with the small block overheating, even though I was working the poor thing to death. Like I said, I only got 3.5 miles to the gallon, so I imagine it was working pretty hard. Um, got caught smoking a cigarette or cigar. Well, we had a similar situation night before graduation. Some young guys there at basic training had managed to get a hold of some cigarettes from the lunch ladies, some of the civilian contractors, and they decided to goof off and party and keep everybody else up. Well, the next morning, the drill sergeant found some cigarette butts outside the windows and did some more investigating and figured out which floor the cigarette butts had came from, because they left some ash and some cigarette butts in the windowsill of the third floor, which just happened to be the floor I was on. And they threatened to not let us have our graduation while our families were waiting outside. And they had the big come to Jesus meeting with the whole, we're going to have everybody go through this amnesty booth, and you can tell whatever story you have, write it down on a slip of paper, put it in the amnesty box. We don't care who says what, but we're going to find out who did what. And they did figure out who did what. And those guys got their due paperwork done. They probably would have had even more paperwork, but some of them had some higher ranking people that were already in their family that were already in the military. So we'll just leave it at that. What is split film? Oh. We'll go skip along from that one. Never got smoked out of turn. Yeah, cigar. Yeah. Well, we got plenty of smoke because we made the walls sweat and all that stuff. We made it rain in the main bay. I was actually, we had so many people in our platoon that they overflowed the bay by all military means, and they had an auxiliary room, and then they had an auxiliary room again, and there was only two of us in the last auxiliary room because our last names were Walters and Bedard. And we were out there by ourselves. There was a couple times we missed the smokings because we didn't hear what was going on, and then we decided, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can stay here and be like church mice. And we did. Got away with it a few times. And then there was other times where we got dragged into the whole smoking sessions too. Can't smoke a rock, drill sergeant. All right, Mom says she's got to go. We love you. Catch you later, Mom. Let the record show I did not smirk. I was pretty good at holding a straight face, at least when the drill sergeants were looking. Can I do it now? Maybe, maybe not. My wife will actually tell me something super funny or super stupid, and then go, "Honey, I can hear you smirking from here." I'm like, "Honey, we're on the phone. See if I can hear it." She's trying to make me. She's pressuring me. You didn't smirk, but did you get smoked? Now these kids can have their cell phones and record while they're in basic training. I don't get it. We may have had cell phones back when I was in there, but that all stayed in our bags that went in the locker that we never saw until we graduated. I think they let us make one or two phone. Some of our phone calls were with like payphones, and then later on, I think towards graduation, we actually got our cell phones out for like a weekend, and they let us make calls to call our family and tell them when graduation was, and that was about it. And then towards AIT, it got a little bit more lenient. Towards the end of AIT, I actually got to live off post because my AIT was super long, 9 months. All right, Dean, saying he's leaving too, I guess. Thanks for stopping by, Dean. I hope you hit the like button on your way out. Same with everybody else here. Best advice I told anyone going to basic: go with a few $100s or more. I never shined a boot or made a bunker clean. Oh my goodness. Well, if you've got cash, of course you can't do smokes until closer to the end of AIT or even at the end. Yeah. I won't say give bribes, but it probably works. Uh, I made my bunks. I kept my boots fair. Uh, Actually, in AIT, I learned not to overshine our boots or overstarch. The big thing everybody liked to do that was stovepipe their hats. What we would do on the weekend is put a bunch of starch in the hat with it wet, and then shove our PT mat, basically a yoga mat, inside there. And of course, the military mats try to self-expand, and we'd stick that on in our hat on top of that. And it would swell out, and it'd stiffen up your hat, and make it stovepipe straight, and all that. And first thing the drill sergeants would do on Monday is take that hat and stomp on it. They called it gurring the hat because they'd wad it up and get it in the wet grass, and then they'd stomp on it, make you do a bunch of push-ups because your hat was too pretty. And then, of course, if you had shiny boots, they'd try to walk over there and scuff your boots because they couldn't. So I would just do the bare minimum, brush shine, get out of there. Because I did that for a while when I was bored, and then I figured out that was too much of my time. I had better uses of my personal time when it not time to be doing stuff. If I didn't need to be doing what the drill sergeant wanted me doing, it was other stuff I needed to do. Maybe even sleep a little. Hey, the battle buddy made it bunk and full clothes. Well, me and my battle buddy, because we were out in that auxiliary room, uh, we learned we could hide our not folded stuff in the other lockers. And there was even times where we'd take our sleeping bag out of the locker and sleep on one of the bunks that wasn't made, so we didn't have to sleep on our bunk that we did make. Because we had spare bunks in our room. I have heard of that. It worked on the black boots. It did not work great, in my opinion. There was far better plasticizers that kind of like a bed liner without the rocky stuff in it. If you strip the boot down to bare leather, you could put that stuff on there, but you had to heat it up with, I want to say, like a heat gun to cure it, and it took quite a while. And those boots were pretty much ruined after that. They looked good permanently, but they weren't very comfortable. The other technique was, instead of Kiwi wax, we'd use Lincoln wax. There was one place outside of AIT that had it called G.I. Joe's. The guy had the world's largest private collection of G.I. Joe, and it was also a Army surplus store. But he sold that Lincoln wax. Even back then, it was $7 or $8 a can when Kiwi was like $3. But a can or two of that would last you all the way through basic AIT. And if you'd had that before basic, you'd have gone all the way through. You got the Lincoln wax? Yeah, you'd heat that. You just take and pour that stuff on your boot and keep heating it with the heat gun until it's soaked all the way in. That stuff worked pretty good. But again, the drill sergeants would just come scuff your boots on Monday. Was great if you were doing an inspection. Then they actually wanted you to look all shiny and spiffy. So we did that. And by the time I got out, we were wearing pigskin leather boots that got nothing on them. Your best bet was just rinse them off and blow them off with like an air compressor, and then rinse them off and let them dry through the weekend, and they look good on Monday morning. And even if you didn't, they still looked about the same on Monday morning anyway. Yeah. Yep. Ohika. All right, gentlemen, we're down to about 3 people watching. I'm glad y'all all came. If y'all want to talk about military stuff a little bit more, we'll stick around. If not, I'll start wrapping it up. Yeah, they didn't have. By the time I got out, they don't have to iron or nothing, no polish. Those guys just didn't learn anything in basic, did they? Bag bomb. That's a clear wax, I guess. That's a soft wax, if I remember right. More for if you use it on your hands. Fort Sill, Lawton, Oklahoma. I've actually worked some wind turbine sites right outside of there, just north of the national park. I know they have the like a bison herd out there at the park, and then just north of that. In fact, I was not. We had a blade that stuck out over the fence, and we weren't allowed to walk over there. So you would have to hang me with a crane to work on the blade that was over there. Had some lead edge stuff that we had to do. That was not the main reason I was there. They that particular tower had lost the nose cone, a big fiberglass spinner. And I say big, it was probably 6 or 8 feet in diameter. It fell off the nose cone and got swatted by the blade, kind of like somebody playing golf. That blade hit that nose cone. They found that nose cone about 8 miles from there, and it did significant damage to the blade. And that was actually what I was there to fix. 1987. Oh, Fort Sill. Well, it was a while ago, Scott. Can't drop links. Mopping glow their boots. Yeah, I've heard of that. We use mopping glow on the floors when we could get away with it. Just, you get the floor good and clean, and if they weren't around, instead of buffing it with all the wax, mopping glow would be out of there. Actually, I used to go to the church chapel every Sunday because the chaplain didn't scream at you if you fell asleep during the sermon, and 2, I didn't have to stick around the barracks to mop and shine the floors. And Sunday was kind of a slack day for us. It was good. And I would sleep through the Catholic sermon, the Protestant sermon, and even the Hebrew sermon, and then go back. Because they didn't really keep track. You just, so long as you came back by the end of something, by the end of all the sermons, I guess. I was very religious. I slept through all the sermons. I mean, I was present for all the sermons. Mopping glow eventually ruins the boots. Yeah, I can imagine it does. BK Boss YouTube. Hello, how are you? You new to the live stream here, I think. I was just wrapping up. We're doing a project update. Last live stream, I actually put together a go-kart engine, but was discussing how this truck's mechanically sound. I'm trying to figure out what kind of a dash or digital dash to put in there. I found religion in basic. Well, yeah. Well, I found out there was more advantages than one to be religious in basic training. That was where I went to catch up on sleep. Actually, I had been an AM radio station DJ at one time for a gospel radio station before joining the Army. I have a long history of just putting my stuff out there and preaching to the camera or whatever, or preaching to a microphone. Might find 12 religions. Well, like I said, if there was, I would go to the first sermon and sleep through that and sleep through the next and whatever, or just, I'd wake up occasionally. I felt blessed at the end of it. Or as my chaplain used to call it, blessed sleep. Hey, Lord. I think he's saying Landon. Yeah, BK Boss YouTube, or YT, I'm saying YouTube. From 82 to 87, Yuma, oh my goodness, Proving Grounds, Yuma, Arizona, and Fort Riley. Air Force. Nope, Mohawk was not Air Force, though. Yes, Scott was saying the same thing. Air Force for 12 years. Well, I did 7 and almost 7 3/4 with the Army, and it was aviation. Redheaded stepchild of the Army. Yeah, exactly what I was talking about. Go to the church and take the nap. All right, gentlemen, looks like we're right at 1.5 hours. I've done my yammering about the truck and project update. I think everybody's caught up on that. We've had some great conversations about basic training and AIT, military life in general, I believe, or at least the beginnings of military life. And Mohawk, we wish Silver all the best in his basic training in AIT. What is his MOS, right, by the way? 62 Bravo. What was a 62 Bravo? That sounds like it's up there towards the aviation spectrum. Sure. Man, it's getting cold out here in this garage. They only keep it about 45, 50 degrees. Today was a warm day, but I can tell the heaters have come on multiple times here, which tells me it's getting on down there. We're not gentlemen, we work for a living. All right. Field surgeon. Oh, we had some medics and stuff. We didn't have field surgeons so much, but we had some attached medics. We had a bad food poisoning bout go around our unit while I was deployed during Ramadan. And what they chose to do is use the Indian people that were our food servers. They managed to poison all, and I think even the beef, and pretty much say anybody who ate at the chow hall that week got severely ill. Oh, their camera's back on. We all got severely ill due to them poisoning our food. And our medics, they were actually busing us in on the Deucing House. They'd gather anybody that was running back and forth to the Porta-Johns and say, if you're sick, you're going to the medics, med call, go. Throw you in the back of the Deucing House, haul you over there, and pump you full of IVs and Phenergan, and give you at least 24 to 48 hours of quarters. Actually, I think everybody got a minimum 24. If you were out of bed after that, you were good. If you had to stay in bed for another 24, you stayed in bed because we were all sick. Just the only thing I remember doing for 2 or 3 whole days was running to the Porta-John. And after being in a tent in the dark and then running out to the Porta-John where there's light, that's a rather shocking thing to your system, but you're probably holding your back end and sprinting as it was. I remember getting 3 IV bags the first day, and they brought me back after 2 days and gave me several more IV bags. Oh my goodness. Fueler. Yes, we had some fuelers. Yeah, we did a lot of hot fueling on the training exercises. We had a 62 Bravo light wheel vehicle power generation mechanic. Our biggest problem was the 60K generators with the John Deere inline 6 diesel. That was a light diesel engine, but it was inside the 60K generators, and they would blow up. We're talking rods through the side of the block with windows, sometimes 2 or 3 rods through the side of the block. Occasionally, we just blow up the turbos. I was like, can we just take, but they were deadlined. Of course, they say, oh, immediately, you didn't do your PMCSs last week. No, we shut it down. We did our PMCSs. We told you we needed to change oil. Oh, no, you didn't. Yes, we did. Argue back and forth, but I mean, hard to argue with. You're out in 120-degree heat with this generator is your lifeline to have AC, and now you got a rod hanging through the side of the block. We just need a new generator. We don't care where it comes from. Just tell me where I can go steal one. I mean, strategically acquire. And my platoon was very good at strategic acquisitions. We kept stencils made up, ready to go. As soon as we had something, we'd spray paint green over their numbers and, black with our numbers, and we were ready to go. I got a job because I'm colorblind. Got one MOS because he's colorblind and then transferred after he. That's cool. That happens. I remember going to basic training with some guys that were colorblind, but they were clearly had other issues as well. And then remember running into one of those guys during the deployment, and he was the one doing our laundry. In the military, that's one of the few MOSs you can have as being colorblind, doing laundry, because everything's the same color. If not, if by the end of being washed a few times, it's going to be the same color, unless somebody threw in some red stuff. But ask me how I know about that one. One of the females had some red undergarments, and she was a big gal, so her undergarments were bigger, and they washed her stuff with everybody else's stuff, and we had some pinkish uniforms. All right, Landon, Mio is live now. Can you share a link, or can you walk me through how to do the thing like you did, sending everybody to the other live? Sorry, cousin Mike. You're not a mod? I need to make you a mod next time. All right, can we put a link? I don't know how to put a link. Well, you know what? I'll jump on, see if I can find her, grab the link, and throw it in here. How's that? All right, guys, I'm going to try to find a link for Mio Rider. I see, goodness, Ajax and Tandem's on. Mio Rider. There we go. It looks like it's Berlin. All right, I see it. I'm going to grab that, throw the link on. There she is. Thank you, cousin Mike. Oh, there you are. She's going to raid. I was going to put the link up there right now. I'll raid Mio's fridge too. All right, there's the link to Mio's live that's going on right now. He's gone. Silver hasn't got an MOS yet. Oh, we got to go to MEPS first. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, the man, oh man, recruiter lost his papers. He's starting off. I tell you what, once he gets a hold of his papers, start keeping track, copy of everything. The I Love Me book. All right, so anyway, gentlemen, for all you soldiers and troopers out there, the link is up for Mio's live stream. I'm going to close out my live, and we'll see y'all over there. Good night, gentlemen.